But first, let me just say that we're really excited to work with you and excited to contribute a little bit to your nutritional needs as you take on all these challenges.
Yeah,
So thanks for working with us and helping us out.
yeah, I'm happy to be an ambassador for Runivore. It's not a new engagement necessarily, at least in the product. I mean, I've been using your product for years, and I'm a big fan and believer into the Runivore product. Basically, it's been started off with the bars at the end of the day, and on trail runs, it's really good fuel. But these days, I just need a hell of a lot of calories to in my nutrition during the day and preparing for training and things like that. And Runivore is one of my key nutrients or intakes in fuel, whether it's at breakfast or snacks during the day. So
That's awesome. Great to hear. I'll pass that on to our chief product designer, which is actually Andy. So he'll be happy to hear that. And we're working on the gels, so they will be coming soon. We just tested them this weekend. But maybe enough about the products. Maybe let's. I want to just talk a little bit about your story. So maybe where does the story begin for you? Where does it start?
I mean, the real story for me begins when I moved to Taiwan. That was in 2013 in February. I did a little bit of running, but I had pretty much no endurance. I could pump a lot of weights because if I was doing any exercise, it was mainly in the gym. And I have a tendency of always pushing my limits, whether that's at work or sports or any hobby that I have. I give it all I got. I'm a 0 or 100% type of guy. But I ended up joining on a recommendation of a colleague a hash. Never heard of it. You're obviously familiar with hashing, and come soon to find out they're drinkers with a running problem. But I remember on my very first hash, it was actually a St. Paddy's Day hash, and there were quite a few people, mixed nationalities, mixed ages, etc. And of course, the young guys, they were all off. I could barely hang on to some of the older folks, and I don't want to be disrespectful, but when I talk about it, they're 50 plus basically. And that was on the flats, and of course, it starts going up a bit steeper, and it starts.
Some of those guys smoke cigarettes too, huh?
Yes, they do. Some of them they do. But all of a sudden, it starts going up very steep and very rough trail, and I could hardly catch any breath anymore. Of course, I stopped running and I started more crawling and walking. And I look at these guys, and one of them is literally walking with a limp and has a shot knee. And well, walking, he's running. He keeps running up that hill, up that mountain, up that rough trail. And I just was astonished by it. And I just said, hey, just one day I would love to be like that. I mean, if only I could be like that one day, or at that age, it would be amazing. Um, and there's been a lot of inspirational moments into my journey along those many years. But that's really one of the key moments that made me change. And a lot of the hash friends, basically, that I ended up making, I mean, they led a very active lifestyle. So all of a sudden, yeah, you're doing a hash, and some of these guys, they do trail runs. It's like, seriously, you do races? After much debating and them nagging, basically, I ended up joining one of my first races, which was a 17-kilometer trail run up in Taipei. And I remembered, I thought that was just an astonishing length for me. So just training, hanging out with these guys, it just, okay, you did it, you feel satisfied, but hey, you keep on pushing those limits, and 17K became 21K, and within a year, I ended up doing my first ultra, 50K, and it all I kept going forward from that. And along the years, basically, I ended up joining the Beast Runners, which is probably where I met you on one of their events as well. And I thought those were the best organized events in Taiwan, the best combination of trail, people, relatively small scale, but a fantastic environment, and just exploring the vast nature that Taiwan has. And that's really what got to me, what motivated me. I wasn't really big on running until I just started running in nature. And of course, once you get to that point where you have at least a foundational endurance, yeah, it becomes fun. It becomes meditative. Um, and I think it was in 2015 or something. Yeah, a colleague of mine and friend of mine, he just kept on nagging and complaining about, hey, you should join a triathlon. Okay, you run, you bike, you can swim, you should join. I said, no, Hans, I'm not interested in doing this. And every day he was back into my office. He says, dude, I'm 11 years older than you. I'm gonna sign up. You better sign up too. Until a moment, pardon my French, I said, shut the hell up. I'll join already. So of course, signed up and ended up doing a bit of training, just still for fun, not really knowing what to do. You would do a bit of running, biking, swimming, and most of my running was still trail running based. But yeah, I remember doing my first Olympic distance race in it was Masago, I think, and I instantly fell in love with it. Same as I fell in love with trail running. It's like, this is it. I love this. It's a different type of challenge, two different types of beasts, but yeah, I just love it. Kept growing.
So which one do you love more now?
Um,
After a few years of balancing it.
It's not so much about loving. For me, the reason why I focus now mainly on triathlons is because in the meantime I've moved to Singapore. There is trail here, but there is no serious trail with some serious climbs like we had in Taiwan, and it's more out of, hey, I can't really do one anymore, so I'm just going to focus on the other. I still do trail runs, at least one race a year I still want to do, but it's hard for me to do any specific training, so it basically comes off at the back of my Ironman training.
Yeah, all of our Singapore friends end up doing a lot of stairs or hill repeats.
Yep.
It's crazy but they do really awesome still when they come to Trans Lantau and stuff. But they have to do a lot of the hill repeats.
Exactly, but they're mentally strong because of it. It's not just the physical side of it. Mentally, I mean, that's a toughness you can't get anywhere else. If you can do stairs for hours on end, then anything in nature just becomes easy because yeah, let's say your fellow competitors, these beautiful sights, beautiful views, everything that comes with it.
Yeah, definitely. Um, the 2013, the first trail race, was that the one, the typhoon year, or was that the one after the typhoon year? There was one that was crazy. I think it was the Maokong, right? The one that you.
Exactly. Yes, the typhoon year. Yeah, it was interesting as well because it was the first time I was racing up north and living in Taichung at the time. Uh, I was surprised how big the difference was, not so much in the trail, but specifically about just in general the rain, the muddiness that the north gets that we get less of in Taichung. So it was a different type of added pain slash pleasure to it.
Nice. I think I was in that race as well. That was one of my first trail races as well. It was pretty amazing and pretty crazy. And I was transitioning from road running to trail running as well.
Fantastic.
Mid-packer.
Yep. Yep.
Let me ask you. I have some notes here, so I'm just gonna follow along because your motto. Maybe you can tell me a little bit more about that. You mentioned something about this already, but set a goal so big that you can't achieve it until you grow into the person who can. Maybe can you tell me about the background of that?
Yeah. I mean, basically, I have to go back initially to my family. It's something that, I mean, my last name is Vanhille, and we say it's a Vanhille trait. My father has it. My grandfather has it, basically. My brother, my sister, they all have it. We all have it in our genes, my aunts, my uncles. It resembles in a different way, or it's going to be representing in a different way, but we all have this engine inside us, this passion. We just want to do something. And in my case, like I said, it's in work. I mean, basically, if I look at my professional career, where I come from and where I've ultimately am and where I see myself going, it's goals that I've set myself, laid out for myself to do, which I know I just simply can't do. I need to develop a hell of a lot of things along the way. And it's in anything I love. similar to I do diving, and then first you start with recreational diving, then you do your rescue diving. Now I'm a tech diver as well. So you go to decompression diving, you go deeper, you dive with 4 or 5 tanks on you. It becomes very technical. And it's the same thing with sports, with trail running again. It's something that burns inside me that doing nothing, sitting still is just not an option. And I mean, it only got fueled more with a year and a half ago. I unfortunately I lost my little brother, or we lost my little brother. And like I said, he had that same thing in him. He was doing great, amazing things as well in his own way, very different than myself, very different personality, but he had that same fuel. But I remember him having so much things he still wanted to do, and not having that time left as well. Um, let's say that just fueled me even more, and actually that's how I got to decide that, hey, this triathlon thing, now that I moved to Singapore, I'm not too bad at this. Maybe I should give this a real shot, and just besides work, which is honestly great, but I want to give this a shot and see how far I can take this.
It's a drive. That's something that drives you.
Exactly.
And so I guess that means kind of dividing these bigger dreams into kind of steps, or it's kind of happened like you have to grow into it, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, ultimately, when I started off let's say, taking it serious, let's go to the moment uh, early when I moved to Singapore and said, okay, and then unfortunately my brother passed away, and okay, let's take it serious after I did some yeah, took some time off mentally, physically, and I started looking around. Okay, how can I do this? There's obviously group trainings, there's private coaching, there's different ways of doing it, and then just reflecting, what would I love to do? And a couple of them was, what if one day I can actually race at the World Championships? What if I can race at the Half Ironman World Championships? What if I can race in Kona one day? Wouldn't that be great? Probably nothing that I could ever do, but let's just set the goal there and see where it goes from there, basically. And I ended up looking around and talking to a lot of people, and I ended up talking to Colin O'Shea, who's my current coach, part of Cost Coaching. Um, and yeah, I mean, I asked Colin, it's like a job interview. You're kind of hiring a coach in that case. And it's like, what's your philosophy? And he was kind of explaining what his philosophy is. And in the back of my mind, of course, I had, what would I want to do, and what's the type of personality that I am, and does it fit? It's like a marriage that you're going into, a long-term marriage. But when Colin asked me about, okay, what do you want to get out of this? And this was this is, yeah, a year and a half ago, actually, yeah, yeah, it's a year and a half ago, and I remember that call was in October, so a little over a year and a half ago. And he asked me, what's your goal? I said, well, I would love to qualify for the 70.3 World Championships first. Let's do that as a short-term goal, and I would love to do that in Taiwan because that's where it started for me, and I would love to do it while I race with my friends, and that race is in March. Can we get there? I know it's short. So we gave it a shot, basically, and the training became very different instantly. I was training already quite a few hours a week, and the hours didn't necessarily increase at the time, but it was specifically that every training counted. It was very scientific, very data-driven, very personalized as well, working on your weaknesses, trying to figure out what your strengths are, and obviously make good use of them. On the bike, it's not just go for a ride for an hour, 2-3 hours. It literally is. This is a warm-up. This is going to be your main set with certain wattages, cadences, time intervals, and that's going to be your cool down. Same thing with the running, same thing with the swimming, strength, and then later yoga for mobility and recovery came along as well. So everything became very, very deliberate.
Basically, you had 5 months or so to kind of just get ready for everything
Exactly.
to accomplish that.
Exactly. I know it was a hard goal, but the end result is I did the race. Did do pretty well. I ended up second in my age group on that one. So obviously that meant I qualified for the 70.3 Worlds in Chattanooga last year. Uh, that was a first real achievement. Wow, I never thought this was. I thought this was a long shot, and I did pretty well. Of course, I had to crush my PB on it, which I did. Very excited. And I remember at the debrief call about a week after the race, with my coach, I said, "Hey, remember that other long-term goal? I mean, KONA. Um, let's try to give that one a shot. Well, I mean, I don't want to race instantly, but where could I qualify for that?" And we start to look at various races, and we ended up selecting Langkawi in November last year as, okay, this is a great race for you to do. And I ended up doing quite a few races during the year, but those were all B races. Everything was in function of Langkawi, including the World Championships, was all in function of going to Langkawi, race there, give it all I got, and ultimately qualify for the Worlds, where I failed. Uh, where I failed to do my goal. And I mean, the way I describe it is, I had a little bit of bad luck, and I made bad calls along the way. Ironman races or long races, stuff is going to happen. Basically, my luggage didn't arrive. I didn't have my tools. Went to the expo, bought new tools, assembled my bike, did a test ride, felt good. Um, and swim went really well. The bike started off quite well, and after about 15, 20K, my seat post started dropping, 5 millimeter in total, and I decided, let's just go on. And there and then, I should have stopped. I had the tools with me, corrected the problem.
It's a long ride, right? So in the wrong position, it will mess you
Yeah,
up.
and you would think 5 millimeters is not that much, but at kilometer 150, you figure out my legs are done. My basically, I have to ride only on my main muscles, my glutes, my hip flexors. They're completely wasted. My bike split was still relatively okay because I still pushed through, but I lost it all on the run basically. Instead of doing a 320 marathon, I ended up doing a 350 marathon, which basically just, yeah, completely blew up my expectations. And I knew I had it in me. We trained. I could crank out the numbers in training. I was in Langkawi 3 weeks before on a training weekend. Did even tougher trainings than I was going to race on. So I knew I had it in me, but basically bad calls, bad decisions
Bad
ended up
luck.
costing me my race. So I was, I think, mentally one of the toughest moments I had, because since Taiwan in March, that became my sole purpose. I mean, in training and everything you do, it's becoming a lifestyle, right? You sacrifice a lot of things as well, and you try to maintain a good and healthy social life, but I mean, you don't go have drinks anymore. I mean, you have drinks, in my case, sparkling water. Your social life evolves a lot about training with fellow social triathletes or meeting up with them, group trainings, things like that. And of course, I have a partner to keep happy as well in the midst of it. So knowing that you dedicate so much hours in training and a whole lifestyle around it, and then knowing you can do it and then failing at it is not an easy thing to do. Um, it really got me to question, what the hell am I doing, and can I actually push forward? Do I want to push forward for this again? So it took me a couple of weeks to just really absorb it. Um, and funnily enough, 2 weeks later, I was racing in Taiwan, Formosa Trail Run, the 65 kilometer, and this was for me the end of my race season. Didn't do any real trail running during the whole year, and it was supposed to be a fun race, which it was. And I ended up going in it with, I want to race with friends again, just have fun, enjoy. At 8 stations, I hung out with friends, had chats, really enjoyed nature again. It was just exhilarating. Somehow I ended up being an hour and 20 minutes faster than last year and ending up fifth in that race. So that was a good feeling because, okay, something's good with the engine, and despite of not doing any trail run training, specific one, I ended up doing really well. So, okay, I still took a couple of weeks off, let the body recover, talked to my coach, hey, what's next? And of course, he was really great. Colin is not just a great coach in terms of the technical skill sets he brings to the table, but also the emotional and the personal side. He's become a good friend of mine in the meantime, but just kind of dragging me through it and knowing that this is a journey of ups and downs, and yes, this is definitely a down. And then we started talking about, I mean, this year was supposed to be, 2018 was supposed to be a year of half Ironmans with KONA at the back end. Okay, either I'm going to continue on that minus KONA, or we're going to give it a shot and do something more. And we ended up talking about selecting a race, which ended up being Ironman South Africa, which I did last April. So, so as of mid-December, we started training hard again, full on for South Africa. But I knew that it's the African Championships. That means there's a few more slots to qualify, but the disadvantage of that is it attracts a lot of the fast guys. A lot of the fast guys from Europe are coming over. It's a very, very hilly and especially windy bike course as well. So I knew from what my estimated times at Langkawi were going to be, and those were 9:50, I would basically have to be able to shave off another 20 minutes to be able to qualify. And that was, okay, can we find in the next 4.5 months, can we find 20 minutes off of it? Which I was really banking on getting that last slot, getting into that 8th or 9th position in my age group. It ended up being a very challenging race. The swim went well. The bike course, it's known as, Port Elizabeth is known as the city where the wind is made. So you go out relatively...
Worse than KONA?
Sorry?
Is it worse than KONA?
Apparently it's in terms of headwinds, it's as bad as KONA. Crosswinds are even worse at KONA. So it was a really good preparation for it. But yeah, you go out relatively fast, backwind, you come back in and it's headwind. And as the day went on, that grew. That wind just grew. And I remember going back in the last 20K, I was on power output, 230 watts. I was on a downhill, which would have given me on flat terrains, I would have been well above 40 kilometers an hour. I was maybe pushing 27, 28 kilometers an hour, and people were overtaking me at the time. So I decided, okay, they must be well over their target, just trying to fight the wind. I'm just going to dial back. I'm going to just ease off. I'm going to ease off 10, 15 watts on my power output, let the legs not blow them up, let it keep them relatively fresh after 180 kilometers, and try to give it all in the run. And it's mentally tough when people are going past you to hold back because you know you actually have the power to hold on. That ended up being my strategy. Started off with a fast run. And my point was just don't slow down. And as you're ticking off people on the run, I knew I started the run in 16th in my age group, I believe, and I ended up 5th in my age group overall, which meant qualifying for KONA. So I had an amazing run. I had a 3:09 marathon on tired legs. So you definitely can't be unhappy about that.
That's awesome. It must have felt good psychologically to start passing people too once you start running, and those bikers that tired themselves out kind of start falling behind.
Exactly. You start recognizing some of these people from other races or just during the race, and it's like, okay, I knew he got past me. I knew he got past me. So when you're ticking off people, it's really good, and especially 42 kilometers is long, especially on tired legs. The longer the race goes on, the more people are slowing down, and all I could think about is just hold on, bite the pain. I mean, you're suffering, or I'm suffering just as well as they are. It's just a matter of how you deal with the pain at the time and think about your cadence. Go mentally into a happy place. Welcome the pain. There's just different mental, psychological tricks that you use just to keep yourself going and push yourself through whatever needs to be done at the time.
Yeah. One of my questions was actually about going back a little bit about your biggest failure, but I think you kind of addressed the race where you had bike equipment failure. But I think that sounds to me like more of an accident, but I guess it still can hurt after putting in so much work. And so I guess what would be your biggest takeaway from dealing with that? And, how do you...
I mean, that's why I say I had a little bit of bad luck and I made bad choices. The bad luck was my luggage didn't arrive. That's assemble my bike on tools that I'm not used to, didn't do a proper assembly. Okay, you can attribute that to bad luck. My bad choices was really never to stop in the race knowing I had the tools and had to adjust from that, and that is something I have to own and accept that. So I can't blame the bad luck for it. At the end of the day, stuff is always going to go wrong, and you have to be able to make those calls under pressure. And actually, in South Africa, I mean, I mean, because it was a very rough bike course, the terrain was quite rough as well. And there's a lot of holes that you bump into, and I check from time to time, look at, is my rear wheel not slipping against my my brake, and I could not see any air anymore between my disc wheel and my brake. I just couldn't see it. So I flashed back, and that was after about 40 kilometers. I flashed back to Langkawi, and I decided I'm going to take a minute here. I literally stopped the bike. I checked it out. Ended up being nothing. It was I couldn't see the gap, which ended up being there. Took off again. Cost me a minute, but I was mentally happy that I was not fighting, let's say, any slipping material. But that's a key takeaway: is it's a long race. A lot can go wrong. Be okay to take a moment, assess the situation before it gets worse and ends up costing your race.
Yeah, the mental thing is very important, huh? Even if something's okay, but it can keep bugging you, I guess that's a really big thing.
Exactly.
As well.
I mean, your mind goes up and down in that duration, right? Anything of long duration, anything up then 5-6 hours, and if you do races 10, 15, 20 hours plus, your mind is going up and down, your body's going up and down. So you need to have mental stability or find those tricks, or especially if it's about just the trust in your equipment, it has to be there. The trust in your training, it has to be there. The moment you lose that, you can have so many tricks in your bag. It's tough to overcome that you don't believe in the foundations, yourself or your equipment anymore.
Just a couple more questions. I know you're getting ready for Roth and you're still finishing up work today, and then you got to get going. But maybe I wanted to ask, do you have any advice for selecting a coach? It seems like that was a very important part in how you kind of stepped up to the leveled up and up again. So maybe do you have any advice on finding a coach for other athletes?
Yeah, I would say, first of all, know yourself, know your goals. That is critical because that will help you understand. And let's start with know yourself. It means know your personality. Am I somebody that needs to be pushed and guided, or do I have an enormous self-motivation already? What is it basically that I need, right? What's the type of communication that I want? Do I want to do distance coaching, which you can get a coach in the US and live in Asia, or do I want to actually have physical contact with my coach? Do I just want to get training programs? Do I also want my coach to correct me on my swim technique, on my stroke as an example, or do I want him to help out on my running gait analysis or my bike analysis? So what's the type of help that I need? What's the type of personality that I am? Um, I'm a type of person that, yes, I have a big personal drive, but I like to be pushed on top of that. If you push me on top of that, I'll give it 120% basically. So that's really what I was looking for when I was going into a coach. And when you interview, you start looking for those personality traits and literally have conversations with that coach and be open and honest and ask him about what's your style. How do you prefer to work? How do you prefer to communicate? What's your strength? The other thing that for me was important as well, not just being a coach and having a track record and a good reputation, which I kept on hearing about Colin when I was talking to other people in Singapore. So okay, apparently this guy uh, must be quite good. I wanted to believe in him in a way that he was an athlete himself as well. So Colin is a kick-ass athlete. He's an insanely good swimmer. He used to be a competitive swimmer. He wins a lot of the local triathlons here in Singapore. If he's not number one, he's number two. He has qualified for KONA as well. He's qualified for various world championships. And I believe in KONA last year he was even 21st in his age group. So that is pretty impressive, being 21st in a global pack of just some of the best athletes in the world that are coming over. So I wanted to believe in him as an athlete as well. But that's really, and take your time. I would say don't rush into just going for a coach. Nutrition, I would say, is another key thing. I kept talking about the sports, but do you need nutrition advice or not? And is that something that your coach is well versed in or not? Have those questions. I thought I knew a lot about nutrition when I started engaging, but through Colin, I've learned a hell of a lot more. And in the meantime, I actually have a second coach, a nutrition coach on the side as well, because that became one of my limiting factors. So surround yourself with experts. You don't need to know everything yourself. And actually getting ready for Ironman South Africa, not the training, but I felt my body became a limitation, and come to find out after some medical checks, it might actually have to do with my nutrition. So I started talking with nutrition coaches. So very same type of process as well. And in this case, I wanted my nutrition coach to be not just a general nutritionist or dietitian. I wanted him to be a triathlon coach and athlete himself as well, which he is. So he understands the sports, the pressure we're under. So
It's a different machine that you have to fuel when you're doing, I mean, the calorie intake that you need and the amount of actually work that you're going to be putting on, right? It's something very, very specific. It's not like just, oh, I'm going to change my diet a little
no,
bit.
it's very specific. I mean, on an average weekday, I'm eating 3,500, 4,000 calories during the day. On a weekend, especially on a Saturday, I might end up burning 6,000 to 8,000 calories. So all that needs to be balanced out if I want to continue to keep my body balanced, and my muscles healthy as well. It's as much as important for your performance as well as it is for your recovery.
Yeah, I mean, the mind will suffer also, right? Everything will happen if the fuel is not there.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Maybe one more question, final question, and then we'll let you go and get yourself ready for your trip. Do you have any dreams outside maybe the sports world? What's your next big dream in that regard that you would share with us?
I have a lot of dreams, to be honest. My bucket list is way too big, but maybe starting off with my and this is not a personality trait that I have. I love to push myself. B is I love to share and help others. And actually, I'm currently finishing up my own coaching course as well, because a lot of people ask me for advice and I help them out wherever I can. But I want to get better at this. I want to know the science behind it. So that's one of the things that I don't want to do this necessarily as a replacement for my day job, but it's just something that I want to do on top or somewhere in between, just help other people just achieve their goals, their dreams. It's something that I love to do it at work as well. I love to coach people. I love to see people grow. Diving, I mentioned, is another hobby, which you could argue is a sport or not. It's very relaxing, very meditative for me. But at the end of the day, it's not just the diving and the enjoying myself. The next level that I see myself going into is that instructor level. It's giving back, I would say, is in any way, shape, or form is something that I love to do. Whenever I'm good at something, I'm not a clingy person. I'm the person that gives it all away and wants other people to benefit from it as well. So if I can just put that in a common theme, it's basically give back, pass, give forward, pay forward, however you want to say it, basically. Pass on the inspiration that I was lucky to receive early on in my sports career, but in everything, even at work, and just pass it on to others and see others flourish and do better than I could ever do. So that's really my big dream.
That's really awesome. I'm gonna be asking you some advice going forward. I signed up for my third Ironman as well in December.
Perfect.
My dreams are cut it. I'm trying to get under 13 hours. My swim is still, I call it the long soak, and then it's like a long survival ride, and then I try to see what happens on the run. But I'm gonna try and cut it under 13 hours. Still come in at night, but we'll see how it goes.
I think you definitely have the foundation endurance to do that. Technique work might be needed, but let's take this one offline, and I'm happy to help out where I can.
Awesome. And are we going to see you back in Taiwan for Formosa again? Are you going to relax with a ultra trail run to finish your season this year?
Nope. Finishing season has to be in Taiwan. I'm coming back, and actually for the first time I'm going to do a 100K run, which I haven't done yet. So I signed up for the 104K Formosa. Again, close down the season with friends and just enjoy Taiwan, a place that I love, with the people I love, basically. So this is the best way for me to close down a race season.
Awesome. So we'll ask our friends, the Taiwan Beast Runners, to make the course a little extra tough this year, maybe. Just to, you have an advantage over the competition if it's extra tough. So I think that'll be good. I'll talk to Peter about
I'm sure Peter has no issue with making it tougher.
All right. Great talking to you, Mitch, and thank you again. And let's kick this thing off. Good luck in Roth, and definitely awesome luck in KONA.
Yep, appreciate it. Thanks for the interview. Thanks for the time, and I would also say thanks for the support for the Runivore team as it's really becoming a core part of my day-to-day nutrition. For people watching, do check out the various products that Runivore has. I know you haven't asked this, but I really am a big believer in it. It goes from breakfast all the way through the day, and like I said, I'm looking forward to those gels that I can actually use on fueling during my my training and racing as well.
Thank you for the kind words, Mitch, and let's keep in touch.
Perfect. Take care. Have a great day. Bye.
How does this work?